Close.
Folks, if you all rise, please, we'll do a pledge. Flag is right behind me, I believe. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Odo Johnson.
Here.
Katie Johnston. Diana Mendoza. Nikki Pettit.
Here.
Tyler Wilson. Robin Vaughn. John Brotherton.
Here. The action agenda addition, corrections, and modifications. I'll make the motion to approve the agenda, removing and correcting items as presented. Give a second.
I second it.
Sorry.
No problem.
Odo Johnson.
Aye.
Katie Johnston. Aye. John Brotherton.
Aye. Next, number 3 is public hearing for 2023-24 fiscal year 24 amended budget. I got to read this, right?
Yes, that is the hearing.
At this time, I will open the discussion. The purpose of this hearing will be to receive public comments on the proposed proposal to amend the fiscal year 2024 budget. The fiscal year 2024 tentative revised budget was posted for public review with notice in the News Gazette on February 16th. Fund balances are available publicly as part of this meeting agenda packet and posted on the district's website. Are there any comments from the members of the Board of Education regarding budget amendment? Seeing none. We'll now move on to written testimony. Is there any written testimony regarding budget amendment? Please, sir. We will move on to oral testimony on in-public comments concerning the waiver. Is there anyone present who wishes to provide oral testimony or public comment regarding the budget amendment?
We didn't have any sheets.
This time, all persons desired to be heard have been given an opportunity to present oral and written testimony in respect to the inter-fund transfer. Is there?
Oh, no, it should be amended budget. I have an error.
You have me read that.
I know I did. Sorry.
So I say again, amended
Amended
budget,
budget.
amended budget. Is there a motion to adjourn the budget amended hearing? I get a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn the amended budget hearing.
I'll second it.
Odo Johnson.
Aye.
Katie Johnston. Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
John Brotherton.
Aye. Sorry.
Script wasn't as good.
Okay, I'll move on to,
Oh, that was the public. Oh, no. The next is, I don't have it in my slide deck, but would be the actual
amendment budget.
for the budget amendment. And I have something that when I will say my part.
Oh,
Okay.
well,
The amended budget well, you read most of it, but in your packet, there is a document that shows the line items that are being amended. There is, and Chris is here if anyone had questions. Part of the amendment is related to a lot of it is related to new revenue that comes in after the start of the school year or after the initial budget. A lot of it's related to carryover funds and grants, and then showing what is being amended. The other item that is in the budget that you're being asked to approve is the interfund transfer. So that's reflected in the new budget, moving $2.5 million from the education fund to the operations and maintenance fund. Now that is also the next hearing that we're going to do is actually to authorize that transfer, but that transfer is reflected in the budget document that you have. So I guess the next item would be, if there are no questions, to a motion to approve the amended budget.
I'll make the motion to approve the amended budget. Can I get a second?
I second it.
Nikki seconds it.
Just have this down.
We're trying.
Odo Johnson.
You know, interference from.
I'm sorry.
somebody there.
Aye. Thank you.
Katie Johnston.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
John Brotherton.
Aye. Now can I move number 5?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next agenda item of the Board of Education's public hearing concerning the intent of the Board of Education of Rantoul City School District 137 of Champaign County, Illinois, to effect inter-fund transfer. Is that correct? That is correct. At this time, I will open discussion. The purpose of this hearing will be to receive public comments on the proposed to transfer pursuant to section 17(2)A of the Illinois School Code. Money estimated at the time of said hearing from the district's education fund to the district's operation and maintenance fund.
And that estimated fund, we have the number now, it's 2.5.
Are there any comments from board members? We will now move on to written testimonies. Any written testimony? We will move on to oral testimony and any public comments concerning the waiver. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make a comment? At this time, all persons desiring to be heard have been given an opportunity to present oral and written testimony with respect to the inter-fund transfer. Is there a motion to adjourn the hearing? I'll make the motion. Can I get a second? Thank you. Different. Yes, Anna?
Katie Johnston.
Aye.
Moto Johnson.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
John Brotherton.
Aye. We need to make a motion for this?
Nope, we're done.
Right for public hearing?
comment, yeah.
Public comment.
Hold on.
Next. And Tanya?
Hang on, just.
Wait a minute. So, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I've got it confused. We just adjourned the public hearing, but now we're at number 6 where
Oh,
we
geez.
have to take the vote for that resolution,
Thank you.
right?
Correct.
Okay. People, all this.
I am tired tonight.
Hey,
Chris, much excitement.
All right, so we're on to 6. Is that right?
Yes.
Resolution authorizing interfund. I'll make the motion to approve the resolution to effect interfund transfer. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Come on.
Moto Johnson. Katie Johnston.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
John Brotherton.
All right. Now we can move to public comments.
Oh,
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. And Tanya, you like to come up?
good evening, Ms. Kirby.
Good evening. So I am Tanya Kirby. I am my status person. I am the English language arts teacher at Rise Academy. I have my master's degree in curriculum and instruction from the U of I. And I just want to make a brief statement about Rise Academy. This is my 8th year in RCS, and my husband and I purchased a home here in 2022. I'm very invested in the students of this community, and in the past few months, I've had several students reach out to me to let me know they are starting their families and want me to be a part of that. I run into former students in the community all the time who just can't wait to get together with me and share what they're reading for pleasure, which as an English teacher, I can't express to you what that feels like. I started teaching in the year 2000. Yes, I'm old. It gets more challenging every year. Curriculum changes, expectations, parental involvement, student behaviors, not that any of that is anybody's fault. The world is just getting more complex, and COVID definitely impacted everything. 2 years ago, I was feeling burned out and looking for a different career, and having some students in the room beg you to teach them while others are doing anything they can to disrupt the learning process, I was not feeling very successful. They offered me the opportunity to work in the Bulldog Academy classroom, which is where they kind of put the kids that are struggling in the regular classroom. And they told me I could kind of teach whatever I wanted, and I was given a lot of autonomy. I did a lot of hands-on work with the kids. I taught a lot of routines and study habits. And I was grateful for that opportunity. And then when the Rise opportunity became a thing, I was grateful and knew that that was exactly where my career was meant to take me. We all know that kids who can't learn their academics when they're struggling with their basic and emotional needs. I've always tried to make my classroom feel like a family. Kids know I care about them and hold them to a high standard. It's not an easy job. It's not always smooth sailing, but I will say I have more great days at Rise Academy than I have days that make me want to give up. These are, they're adolescents and they're people, and some have rarely experienced success or felt valued. And at RISE, we help these students see their value as a person first. I want to make learning relevant to our students and give them real world experiences. I'm more than happy to talk to anyone about my experiences so far this year at RISE and the plans I have moving forward in the years to come. Mr. Henderson will have an overview of what I've taught this year when he does his presentation. But I would just encourage, if any of you have any questions about things that happen at RISE, that talk to any of us, come visit. We'd love to see you. This just came to me. I am the ELA teacher, but our science curriculum is an online curriculum. And I know that there's an eclipse coming. And so I applied for a grant, and out of 1,000 schools that applied, 20 were chosen, and RISE was the only alternative school that was chosen. So I'm taking 3 days of my ELA curriculum teaching time. We're going to preview the eclipse, talk about what it's all about. Then we're actually going to be observers. This is all a NASA grant. So then we're actually going to go on the NASA website. NASA, my husband was correcting me last night, the NASA website, and they will enter their data that will be real-time data that's used by NASA to find out what happens to the world when the sun disappears for a few minutes in the middle of the day. So that's my statement. I do also have a teacher assistant who wrote a statement and asked me to read it, and I have 55 seconds left. So,
Well, board, it's only a paragraph, so it's up to
Just
you.
let her go.
Okay. Go ahead. Looks like.
so this is from Devon Thompson. He says, my name is Devon Thompson, and I currently work at RISE Academy. And I am also a resident of Rantoul and even went to J.W. Ader Junior High School and have worked for the Rantoul Public School District for the last 5 years. I know I wasn't given much time, but I do want to make it clear every one of the staff members show up every day and work extremely hard to help better each child mentally and emotionally. I also want it to be clear at RISE Academy, we do not strive for perfection. We strive to meet student goals, serve and protect, even if it isn't the most conventional way. I'm a strong believer that things certainly aren't built overnight. It's also extremely important to be patient and trust the process, which is something we've instilled in ourselves and all of our students at RISE, because I most certainly trust DeAndre Henderson and the rest of the RISE staff members. When I think of leading by example, I think of my coworkers such as Tanya Kirby, Jamie Kingston, Natanja Wells, Lester Washington, and Alexis Rhodes, just to name a few, who show up every day and put their best foot forward. Last but not least, just a phoenix, still I rise. All my best, Devon Thompson.
Sweat.
Good evening. It's my first time in the new building. And it's a long trek from that front door. Good evening, everyone. It is with great concern I am speaking to you this evening. This problem is regarding hate and racism in Rantoul City schools. It was made aware to me through conversations about racial incidents occurring in Rantoul City schools. These incidents involve children, staff, teachers, and administrators. Children are being affected by racist language and acts. Staff have been affected and disrespected by students with racist language and their behavior. Teachers and students have been perpetrators of racist acts and language. Then administrators have been made aware and appear to not have made it a priority to establish a tone and climate in the school regarding racism and hate. Also, complaints raised by students have been minimized and or dismissed. When a student or teacher uses the N-word in a classroom referring to Blacks or a Black student, it is unacceptable. When a teacher tells children it is okay to be racist, flips students off, or tries to rationalize or justify a racist act, it is unacceptable. One race bullying, taunting another, or two races against one is happening. Teachers are employees hired to teach, open minds to new opportunities and possibilities, challenge and encourage learning. Their job is not to indoctrinate students on race, religion, sexual orientation, etc. What happened to the social and emotional learning concept being taught? And if so, where does it intersect with diversity and inclusion? And is basic civility even being taught or exemplified? These are questions I ask and everyone should be asking and insisting on. School should be a safe place for children, not a place that is a petri dish of traumas, apprehension, and anxieties that grow and fester. Respect is two ways. How do you expect students to show respect to each other or staff when they are not shown the same civility and respect? As staff, teachers, and administrators and board members, it should be your responsibility to set the climate, tone, and tolerance level for the schools as well as enforce it. Stop dismissing and suppressing children's complaints and minimizing their trauma. In doing so, you are further traumatizing students and those who are watching what is occurring and how things are being handled. This may be a learned behavior from home or an association for a child, but it is not an excuse for a grown teacher. Teachers are human and have their biases. However, when those biases enter and impact the culture and climate of the classroom, the school, and the students' well-being, it should be directly and swiftly handled and eradicated. RCS has become a melting pot of culture, race, and ethnic backgrounds. It may be felt a learning curve with racism is needed. Whatever learning curve is being given, it should be on a short rope or stopped. I was reminded of the past when racism was exhibited by one student toward another student. It was handled much differently. Now you expect our children to know how to reset, self-regulate, etc. about bullying, racism, and other issues is unreasonable, especially if you are not teaching and giving them the necessary tools and setting realistic expectations. Schools should be a safe and protected learning environment and experience. Maybe if children didn't have to contend with these issues early in life, they may feel free to learn at school, which is failing to happen. Black children are not faring well academically, socially, or emotionally in the current education system and environment. Tonight, I'm speaking in general about some of the racist and bullying activity happening. I am curious if any or all of these acts may violate Civil Rights Act, Title VI. I want to thank students who do come forward with their observations and concerns. I encourage teachers, staff, and administrators to speak up as well. Parents, talk and listen to your children and their conversations when in your presence. You will have a better assessment of what they are dealing with at school. Students, staff, teachers, administrators, and board members. If you don't say anything and make this a safe learning environment at school, you are just as complicit. Thank you.
It's public comments and action consent agenda items.
All right, on the consent agenda, there's two things I want to highlight. One is, as I did discuss with the board previously, is the Director of Curriculum Instruction position is being added. So within the personnel items is approval of that job description. That position has already been posted and we are scheduling interviews right now for that. Donations and grants, we received a $13,355, that's a very specific amount, grant from the Illinois Arts Council. And there's a description in your packet, but what we are looking at is this money will be used in year one for planning for what we hope will be Spanish as a foreign language as a class offering in our elementary schools that would be available to all of our students. And then we do have the option to apply for additional funds for 2 more years. So this is for a planning year. So those are the only items for the consent agenda.
Since Tyler's not here, I guess I have to make it. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items, including personnel reports as submitted with the stipulation that each individual is required to comply with all requirements for new hires as indicated in Illinois statutes and RCS board policy and procedures, including ratification of bills prepaid by the financial manager under board policy 4.50. Can I get a second?
Second.
Steve seconds it.
John Brotherton.
Aye.
Vicky Pettit.
Aye.
Katie Johnston.
Aye.
Bodo Johnson.
Aye. That's correct. Thank you. And we're now moving to Rice Academy. Henderson's going to come up and share.
You could have it connecting into the Zoom room.
I understand. I said you know, to-
All right.
Yeah, you're one of us.
I'm DeAndre Henderson, the Director of Alternative Programs. I oversee the RISE and CARE program that is located in this building. In your folders in front of you, you have the layout of this presentation that's up. You also have Ms. Kirby's curriculum. It talks specifically about what classes she teaches and also the standards that they are aligned to. You also have our community investment sheet, and that shows some of the field trips we've gone on and or some of the speakers that we've had come talk to our students. This kind of showcases our commitment to making our students a part of their community, but also bringing the community to us as well. So giving those real world experiences often extends outside of the classroom. These are just some examples of how we've done that this year. I'll talk more about that as we go through the presentation. So the RISE Academy mission and vision, I just want to remind everybody what our mission and vision was when we got this program approved. As Ms. Kirby talked about, this program kind of evolved from a single room at JW Ader where all of our students were housed to add more support for those students who needed it the most. So the vision of RISE Academy is to create an educational environment that gives every student what they need to succeed. And the mission of RISE Academy exists to create a community where students have opportunities to connect education to real world experiences. Students are able to effectively express themselves and the value of the educational environment is not diminished.
Since we've got extra copies.
To this end, suspension out of school will be used only as a last resort to ensure the continuing safety of students and staff. At RISE Academy, one of our main things that we want to do is keep students in school. We know that behaviors exist and oftentimes behavior is used as a way to avoid the school environment. So we wanted to make it very clear that if we suspend a kid, it is the last resort for behaviors that are a continuing threat to student safety and staff safety. So how do students get to RISE? So there's 4 ways that students can get to RISE: behavior, attendance, alternative to retention, and parent request. And we have students at RISE from every single facet of these 4 ways of getting there. Behavior is based on administrative placement from homeschool. They must have exhausted their school interventions prior to referring a student for behavior. Attendance eligible, if students are eligible for retention based on attendance numbers, they are eligible to attend RISE Academy. An alternative to retention, students who are retained by their home school have been sent to us so that they don't lose that year of educational progress and so that they can work on whatever their concerns were, which are usually grades and attendance are usually the 2 ways that students get retained to their home schools. And so that we can focus intensively on those 2 areas so that they're able to move forward and go back to their correct grade. Parent request, parents have requested that their students go to RISE on several occasions. We take parent requests on a case-by-case basis, depending on how many seats are available. Our student demographics this year. RISE has served 27 students in the 23-24 school year up to this point. 3 of them have been 5th graders, 1 6th grader, 7 7th graders, and 16 8th graders. You can see our breakdown of demographics by race. You can see that our white percentage of the school was 29.6% this year. Our Black percentage was 55.6%. Our Hispanic percentage was 7.4%, and our 2 or more races was also 7.4%. Their respective numbers of the school population are found above that. RISE, the purpose of RISE is a new approach to education. We recognize that a lot of our struggling learners have strengths, have leadership qualities, and the current educational system was not allowing them to reach those full potentials. So some of the things that we emphasize in our program are real world learning, smaller class sizes. Our class sizes are sitting around 5 to 7. We get up to 8 sometimes, but between 5 and 8 is where our class sizes are. Community engagement, we make it a priority to engage the community, for the community to come to us and for us to go out to the community. Holistic SEL practices, and that's social emotional learning practices. Therapeutic educational approach. We approach everything with a therapeutic lens, and I'll talk more about that later. Team problem solving and wraparound services. The wraparound services is a really big one. It is, it's a holistic approach to a student, because we know when students come to us, sometimes they're coming to us from different life circumstances that affects their ability to attend to their education. So we provide wraparound services to the extent that we can in helping them to, get through those barriers to access their own education. So real world learning, here are our year 1 class offerings by category. So in English language arts, we offered reading foundation, rhyme, lyrics, and poetry, personal narrative, biography, journalism, and argumentative essay. Argumentative essay is a kind of a current events class as well. And that's what they're taking this term right now. For math, we did math foundations, financial literacy, business and entrepreneurship. Our foundations classes are really meant to say, like, when it's a pretty much a traditional math class. We do teach it a little differently with the structure of the class, but it's a traditional math class, but we call it foundations classes because we want our scholars to understand that you're learning things as a foundation for what you want to do in life. You're learning these basic skills, or you're learning these concepts because they are going to be your foundation for whatever career you want in life, whatever goals you want to set in life. So that's why we call those traditional classes more of our foundations classes. Science and social studies are online. Those are our Edgenuity classes, and it's the same program that we used at Bulldog Academy. They get their grade level science and grade level social studies classes online, which is overseen by Mr. Thompson, who's able to help them and make sure that they're making adequate progress. Our CTE classes are foods and hospitality, life skills, child development, and college and careers. Those are the 4 CTE classes we've offered this year. So our systems of support, our goal is to support students with their social emotional learning, but also to, like we said, holistically approach student learning. So we have multifaceted systems of support that allow us to do that. Our first one is our social work created daily social emotional learning lessons. We have social workers that create our FCL lessons every day, every week. What that allows us to do is have a trained professional who's in the environment, who sees some of the real world issues that students are dealing with, and create lessons to help them address those issues. So for example, Ms. Sweat said racism. If we're seeing racism as a big issue, we're going to have some social emotional lessons on that very week, those very next week, to address those kind of issues. So it brings in, it's like, why am I learning about this SEL topic when this SEL topic doesn't apply to me? It's going to apply to you because it's going to be things that you're going to see in the environment that we're actually responding to with our lesson planning. Daily behavior charts. Our students have daily behavior charts. On those daily behavior charts, it serves to give them immediate feedback on their behavior. Some of the things that are on the daily behavior charts are, on time to class, appropriate language use, community participation, completing work, and on time to class also includes at school. So when we focus on those kids with attendance, we want to make sure that they're getting at school. And so we're charting that as well. And following teachers and school rules. There are specific behavior charts that we modify for students. If we see the generic behavior chart isn't addressing the things that you're here for, we will modify a behavior chart for individual students so that it addresses their goals and why they're there at the school.
Can you give an example of that?
Of the behavior chart? I brought some. So you can see on the front side of them, each of the classes they go to every day. You can see what they can get 0, 1, or 2 points. You can see what the expectations are on the front side that they have. And then on the back of it, it gives a definition of what we're looking for. So that feedback comes in, you're getting the points, but those teachers are talking to you about what you did not do in that moment that led you to lose points. It's also a check-in, check-out system, where in the morning we have house systems, which is the next thing we talk about. But the house leader talks to them about their daily points or what their goal is for the day. And at the end, during binder check, they add up their points and they talk about what things they could have done differently that day. So it's a daily reflection on their behavior in these areas.
So when you say that, if there are some things that aren't completely for the student in question,
Okay.
what do you mean by that?
So like, for example, if on time to class, this student is not a student who's having a problem with being on time to class, they're there and see, we might change that from being on time to class. And this is based on observational data, what we're seeing in the learning environment. Some examples that we have for trying to think of a specific student who has their specific one. Some examples. I could pull one up. Tanya, can you think of one right off? The top of your head? Transitions. So if we're struggling with behavior during transition time, so it might be like appropriate interactions during transitions. So we'll change one of these so that what they're struggling with in the moment, we are giving feedback on that. The house system. Students are placed in houses at the beginning of the year. And when they come to us, if they come at the mid-year, they also get placed in the house. Students get incentives based on their behavior charts as a house. So these behavior charts are combined with their house to kind of make that community feeling, because one of the big things that we see with our students is that lack of community with one another. So we're trying to build that community through these house systems. These house systems get rewards and incentives together. Their rewards could include like lunch on a staff member. It also can include 20 minutes of free time, something we've done. Use of the massage chair is something we've also done with our students as well. So it's an incentive for you as a house to do well and hold each other accountable. That peer accountability is very important, especially in the middle school level, because those peer influences are so important. It's such a big influencer on their behavior. Our tier 2, we have social work targeted intervention, where they have group and individual interventions. They're identified students and they receive at least 30 minutes weekly with those social workers. So we have 1 social worker and 2 social work interns that work at Rise Academy. So each student that's in a tier 2 at the tier 2 level gets that intervention. Then in that individual behavior charting that we just talked about is one of our other tier 2 interventions that we have as well. Our tier 3 systems of support, individual therapy sessions with Gateway Family Services. Our students see a gateway that are tier 3, see a Gateway Family Service individual 2 times a week for 30-minute sessions. They also attend rhythmic writing at Gateway Ranch. It's once a week for 10 weeks as an intervention. Not everybody gets that. We have groups. Our kids wanted to go so bad that we've made it so that every kid has had a chance to go and get that intervention. We have the ability to do it. It's a small group of 6. We couldn't go more than that at a time. So every 10 weeks, we sent 6 different students. And like I said, we had 27 students and we sent 3 back. So that puts us at 24. So that worked out well. And then they have continued equine therapy. Students utilize miniature horses at the school to continue their therapeutic services. So after they've done rhythmic riding, they still have the opportunity to work with the miniature horses once a week for 20 minutes that come to Rise Academy, and they work with the therapist on things such as regulating their emotions. So one of the ways, and obviously I'm not a therapist, but they've explained it to me, but one of the ways that the horses are able to work with the students is that, you know, a horse can tell your emotions. And if the horse is reacting to you in a certain type of way, it really gets you to reflect on, okay, what are my emotions? What am I feeling like this? Also, with the, it's a way for them to, when a horse is dysregulated, use those strategies that they've been taught to help regulate the horse when they're on it or when they're not on it. So those are just a couple of things. And I know Gateway Family Services could go way more in depth about what they do with the equine therapy and the miniature horses.
I did get a call one day that there was a donkey out behind this building and it was a miniature horse.
Do not call,
Not a donkey.
do not call me. Real world hands-on experiences, when we said that, we meant it. So we focus on building community and connecting students to learning with real world applications. We want to connect them to as much as we can to the rental community. I remember right before starting this summer and all of the work that was done over the summer, there's all these articles about all these kids that got kicked out of the pool, right? And so I couldn't help but think to myself, what if they had relationships with those kids for the summer? Maybe that would have been a totally different chain of events. So we started looking at, where can we take our kids in Rantoul so that they can, one, the business owners and people can know who they are and they can know who those business owners are, but they can feel more like a community there. So they went to OTT. We focused on business and entrepreneurship. Anywhere they go, they have questions that they came up with on their own. They get a tour of the facility. Usually the business owner will talk to them or the individual talk to them about what they do. And then they'll ask questions, but we had some pre-scripted questions that they had to write in class that they would each be responsible for asking during those times. So OTS focused on that business and entrepreneurship class, talking about how you started a business and things like that. We went to the Baker Brand Tool, the sports complex. Edward Jones came to us, talked about financial literacy, MP strategies, talked about, being an entrepreneur, but also he talked about his law degree and things like that. WCIA came and visit us. Matthew White for our journalism class came and visit us. Some of our kids got up and interviewed him, asked him questions. There was a girl there who got up and asked questions in front of the whole school, and Matthew White, who refused to read out loud last year at Ader. So it's just one of those examples of how far some of our kids have come and how safe they feel in our environment. We've also went to Cranner. They saw a play at Cranner, and that was focused on rhyme, lyrics, and poetry. Our therapeutic learning environment, RISE teachers and staff meet daily to offer a holistic approach to problem solving. They meet in the morning before kids get there, and they meet after kids are there. So we use every minute of our days to make sure that we are focused on student learning and how we can best respond to student behavior or student concerns, or how we can, just get better on a daily basis. We build on student strengths, we respond to student challenges, and we create specific plans for instructional and behavioral challenges presented in the classroom. And we do this daily. We've also repainted the building to promote calming. In one of our hallways, you'll see a wavy line if you walk over there sometime. That's a therapeutic piece that it's a regulating thing. Sometimes you'll see our kids going like this as they're walking down the hall, and that helps them regulate their emotions as they're moving through. Our colors in our room, our focal points in our room, you can see our back walls are painting this calming blue. The color was chosen because of its therapeutic nature, but it also focuses the line, so your eyesight to the back of the room, so that you can, so that when you enter a space, it feels more welcoming to you. We've had our Gateway Therapy Services come with our teachers and walk to our classrooms and make adjustments to see, this is not very calming, this is calming. So we've done that with all our classrooms as well. We've changed our daily schedule based on our meetings and our therapeutic lens to where we're adding movement in the middle, the beginning and the middle of the day based on kids' needs. We've added snack to the day based on kids' needs. When we're seeing, energy spikes or kids are really low on energy at certain times of the day. So that allows us to give them what they need to engage in their learning fully. They also can earn up to 2 5-minute breaks with the staff member daily. Those 5-minute breaks are meant for them to build those relationships with those staff members for check-ins with students. How are you doing today? What's going on? Most of the students have a staff member that they request because that's their person, and no one staff member is the same. There's lots of different staff members who the students are inclined to ask for when they have that break. But it also allows them to get that movement. A lot of our kids sitting down for long periods of time, it's not good for them. So we know that when we're teaching them that when they need to break, they can ask and request a break so they can get that movement, so they can advocate for themselves, so that they're not in your classroom disrupting, so they can get kicked out, so they can get the movement that they desire. Year one successes. So we had 3 RISE students return to JW Aider at semester. They showed significant improvement in behavior charts, discipline referrals, attendance, and grades. Our student 1, who came to us from a parent request, she had 13 referrals in the 22-23 school year. In 22-23-24, she had no referrals at JW Aider once she went back. She finished the 3rd quarter with all A's and B's. Student B, which refers to behavior, she had 30 referrals for the 22-23 school year, 13 referrals for the 23-24, with 10 of them at JW Aider. They have significantly decreased. Finished the 3rd quarter with all B's and 1 F. Student 3 came for attendance. They were a candidate for retention based on attendance. When they were at Rise Academy, they had 5 total absences the whole year. Once they went back to JW Aider, they missed 13.5 days, most of which were in January. But the RISE team performed home visits, school visits, check-ins to support, worked with JW Aider staff, did a plan with that student, and they missed no full days in February. Year one barrier. RISE has been under construction all year. We did not have doors on our room that were operational until mid-October, so it's 2.5 months through our 1st quarter where we didn't have a learning environment with doors. We've had carpet replacement going from January until February. Cubicles were still in space until January from the old AT&T. Part of the proposal and the approved plan was a kitchen, an operational kitchen for our culinary arts students. That did not happen based on budgeting. We do not have an operational kitchen. We do not have the plumbing or the heating and cooling that we needed for that. That was a big part of, one of the staff members I hired, as well as that hands-on learning experience that we were trying to give students this year. So class offerings also had to change from 6 sessions to 4 quarters due to incompatibility with the Skyward system. So we weren't able to do the 6 sessions that we had originally planned on, which kind of limited our class offerings this year. And then behavior modification across setting. I think every school in RCS is dealing with behaviors, as you guys have heard. And we've seen some success with our students, but what we are really trying to and focusing on 4th quarter is across the settings to see those success, not just little, showing us it a little at a time, but just more sustained success across different settings, applying what you're learning here outside of school, but also applying what you're learning in one class and what you're doing in one class to another class. So it's a step-by-step. We were reminded yesterday in our professional development that, we have students who've had many years of making brain connections for this particular behavior that they have, and we've only been with them for a short amount of time. And so we have to know that this is a process and we're in it for the long haul, and we're not going to see the efforts of our work immediately. It's not going to be an immediate gratification for what we're seeing, but we are seeing growth in our students. Partnerships. We have many partnerships that we've worked this year. We've received a grant from the University of Illinois to finish building the music studio. It's a student-led project. They're working with the U of I social work department and someone who has a music engineering background. They're learning about the music engineering process through action. They're building the studio. One of the examples I can give of this is in that right-hand corner, they had put the soundproofing panels. But then when talking about sound waves and where they wanted the sound waves to bounce off of, they've now moved it to the left-hand corner. So they're learning through their actions. They're learning how things work. They're learning skills that most people would never learn at school. They do this during their recess time instead of going to recess with the rest of the students. That's what they're working on. We're also going to be taking a trip to the University of Illinois to experience the realities of what doors education can open for you. That's something that's also being funded through our partnership with the University of Illinois. Students will get to eat on campus. They'll get to do a campus tour. that get to toward the State Farm Center as well. All of our Rise eighth graders are participating in an after-school program with the Carter Foundation to prepare them for life at the high school. So we're really focusing on those kids that were sitting into the high school, making sure that they have those skills that they need to be successful when they enter that large. All right, there's some pictures of our kids. Questions?
Okay. Before, when you, the very first time, before we even built Rice, or not built, but you know, Rice. You were saying how you didn't want it to be a school that housed mainly brown and black students, but that seems to be what it is. Which that's fine if those are the people that need it. But my question is, are we, I know that it's alternative learning, but are we testing them to see if they are actually are learning and retaining what they need to learn in order to go back into the school or be successful later on in high school or anything like that? Because I think Rice is great and I've always been a proponent of it. However, I started thinking and I was like, well, on the flip side, if it is mainly brown and black students and they aren't learning what they need to learn in order to pass tests that they need to pass in order to go on to college, then that's affecting mainly brown and black kids, which is what we're having a problem with just in life in general. So how does that work?
They take all of the same benchmark assessments that every other student here takes. So we have our data. It's mixed in with JW8's data, correct? Yeah, so because we didn't want that to look different, like just our kids pulling them out. So it's mixed in with the data from JW8. So we take the benchmark assessments. I know just off of anecdotally, looking at one student that they made a 100-point increase in reading. Is that Ms. Kirby? 100 from our August when we took it. So before they had ever attended Rise to December and that benchmark point. So I know that growth is happening. So, but to your question, are they going to be taking they're going to be college ready, or are they going to be taking the tests and things like that that Ader's taking? They're not doing the same curriculum that Ader's doing. However, they are doing it in a way that's standards based. So their standards, like for example, our math class. So we know our students are behind. So we, for example, made all of our math classes kind of like intervention classes. So we looked at the data from fast bridge testing from the year before and saw what grade level they were testing at. Some of our students from Ader that we got were testing at the second and third grade level. And so we made groupings based on that. So in a single math class, students are getting an equal amount of time of on grade level math, an equal amount of time on foundational skills math, the things that they haven't learned to get on grade level, and fact fluency, so that they can get better at recalling facts to help them with on grade level. So we are not spending as much time on grade level, but we are getting them that grade level content. And as kind of we've talked about here a lot is that if kids can't regulate themselves, if kids aren't able to sit in a classroom, these kids aren't going to be successful. So those are the things we have to get through first till we can get to the learning, get them able to regulate. And I think looking at our kids, our two kids with Fs that went back, one of them is in an elective class, not their core class, and the other one has had a situation with the teacher, and that's why she's doing what she's doing. But if you look at how they're transitioning back into the environment, their grades are holding up with the other kids that are in Ader. We'll do another benchmark test here soon, so we'll kind of know what that benchmark is at. But like we said, this is the very first year, so we don't really have that data to compare it to year over year yet.
Thank you. My other question was, how do your tiers work? Like,
The intervention tiers?
yeah,
That's a great question. So we use the district assessment tool called My Savers. It's part of FastBridge. So our students do a assessment at all 3 times of the year, and they kind of assess their own, I wouldn't say mental health, but their own say mental health,
Okay.
for lack of better words. It's a research-based progress monitoring tool or baseline tool. And so based on those, it's kind of how they have identified to their tiers. We've also added people to tiers based on their behavior charting scores and referrals. So if you're popping up with a lot of referrals, you'll get moved through the tiers as well. Because we have had such low numbers and such high support this year, I'm trying to give everyone an intervention. So almost everybody everybody does have some sort of intervention that they're able to do because we have resources this year. But our higher level kids, especially the kids that come to us off the bat with an expulsion, like they're an alternative to expulsion, we put those in tier 3 because we want to get them, obviously, they've exhausted their interventions at the homeschool level and they're here because, so I'm not going to start them at tier 1 and go through tier 3. They come in at tier 3. And we do have 2 kids with us this year at RISE, which has allowed them to stay in school and not have to come to you for an expulsion here.
So the greater the offense, the greater, the higher the tier.
The greater the need, the higher the tier. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
But for a lot of the kids that you have, the need for social emotional support is not because of it's not violent behavior. It's not, I'm cussing people out. It's they're emotionally not.
Yeah, we have several kids who are with us for attendance reason, are internalizing their behavior some too. So just because like some of our kids that flag on the My Savers, you would look at that kid and be like, what? How are you flagging? So that's another way that we get that information, but not all of them are externally showing their behaviors. A lot of them are internalizers as well. And so we work with them that way as well.
I have a question. How many classes do you actually have?
Like in a day.
For example, you said you can have 5 to 8 students in a class. How many classrooms do you actually have?
We actually have 4 classrooms.
So you have 4 classrooms. Now, how do you divide the classrooms? You said you have 5th graders all the way up to 8th graders. Is it by the academic part of it, or?
So when we started the first semester, we only had 1 5th grader. So it was very hard. They had to be in classes with other graders. We had 0 6th graders at that point in time. So we had 5th, 7th, and 8th. But now this quarter, for example, all of our 5th graders are in a cohort together with a couple of 6 retained 7th graders. So they're actually in 6th grade, but we're trying to get them back to 7th grade. And then our 7th graders and our 8th graders are cohorted together too.
Okay, you answered some of my questions from Mrs. Pettit's questions that she had academically. And I know we have 8th graders. And I heard you say something about the Carter Foundation. So are we sending kids, are they graduating or being promoted or moved from Rise Academy to the high school?
Yes.
With lesser education than any of the kids at Ader?
No, I would say it's a very loaded question. I would say that what we're doing is we're focusing on different things. They're going to get a higher social emotional education than the kids at Ader are. So we have to remember that there's Illinois learning standards for social emotional learning, just as there are for academics. So we focus on social emotional learning, and I won't shy away from that. That was our goal. That's why we came. That's why we are here, is to focus on that. We see in our kids' lives the things that they go through every day. And we know that without an intervention in that, there's no amount of education that is going to allow them to overcome those things. So I do not mind saying that we do not focus as much on academics as we do social emotional learning. We spend most of our time thinking about social emotional learning and focusing on that. But what I can say is if a student is engaged and ready to learn, they will be ready. They might not have as much time on task in math, science, and reading, social studies, but they will have the knowledge that they need to succeed. Many of our kids for fast bridge, our 8th graders are testing where I've seen where our 8th graders test at Ader. They're testing around the same at the 6th grade level, which is what a lot of our 8th graders test at Ader for fast bridge. So they're testing around the same place as they were. So are we concerned with their being able to be successful academically? No. Our biggest concern is their ability to be successful behaviorally. because without this intervention, they don't make it. If you look at RTHS and the kids that they have expelled right now, they're gonna look like a lot of Black and brown kids, and they're gonna look like a lot of RCS Black and brown kids.
So we're still sending them there with the lack of education, with academic. I mean, we're sending them to be in school, but to be flunking in school.
It doesn't sound like.
No,
it to
that's
me.
not-
It sounds like
that's-
what he's saying, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like what you're saying is when you guys test them, you're using the same tests that are the tests at Ader, and that they are performing the same.
But we don't focus on it. They have, when you look at a lot of our standards and where our standards are at, a lot of our standards build on each other, and they build on from 6th to 8th grade specifically, they build on different facets. So if you look at reading language arts standards, and if you look at the standards that Tanya Kirby has put into her one pager, we aren't focusing on repetitive standards, we're focusing on exploring the standards through learning. So are they getting as much time on task? No. So are they going every day and doing worksheets? No, but they're exploring it more deeply. They're exploring it and they're connecting it to real world experiences. And once you connect something to a real world experience, you're going to be able to remember it more. Now, we don't have any evidence yet right now for me to tell you what's going to happen with these 8th graders. But again, social emotionally, I know they will be better off when they go to high school than they would have been if they had not had Rise Academy.
I think a fair question. It's not for anyone in this room to answer, unfortunately. But the fair question is, the high school knows they're getting these kids that have significant needs emotionally in order to be successful in school. And we are doing a good job of keeping these kids in school, keeping them learning. So the concern I know we have is, are they gonna get any supports when they go to the high school? And that's unfortunately nothing we have control over.
Right.
And that's part of the conversations that we have started with the high school. I think we've talked more with the high school this year than I ever did at Ader. Todd has been to Rise. Mr. Wilson has been to Rise Academy. They came over and they met all of our students, their admin team, and we're hoping to get them over more to start to build those relationships before. But so part of that 8th grade is really, what are you struggling? We've surveyed them what they think they're struggling with, and we're adding extra support for those things after school. So these 8th grade after school programs are voluntary. They're staying after school because they want more support in this so that they feel more comfortable when they go to high school.
Are all the kids that come to Rise actually from Rantoul?
Currently, well, yes, they have to register with the district. So we don't have any out of district placements.
So we don't
At this
we don't drive to, like, say, Champaign and pick up kids from
No.
Champaign and bring it back to Rantoul anyway.
Not this year.
How's your attendance?
I didn't look at our February numbers, but we're sitting around like 88-89%.
It's the lowest of the facility schools in the district. Actually, no, pre-K is lower.
Yeah.
But it's also understanding we have kids that
Are
have
there.
historically
It's-
bad attendance issues.
Yeah, we have a kid there who missed 113 days last year. So we're making
We're on
progress.
Ahead of schedule.
We're making progress, correct? And we started to make even more progress as of recently, once we started to intervene more, but she has a medical, or she's working on a medical diagnosis
So
too.
what happens when a kid with a huge number of absences, you've got them with you, what happens when they're not at school?
So we have lots of interventions. We have Ms. Carter, who's a great family liaison who is there. So we have, we'll send her out to pick students up or to talk to parents or to put in interventions. Some kids need alarm clocks, some kids need incentives to get to school. Some kids are working. What we found is a lot of the home lives are keeping some of our kids from coming to school. Most of our kids come to school, but when you've only got 22 kids and you got 2 kids that aren't coming to school, that pulls down your data quite significantly. So, but most of, I would say, of those kids that are coming to school, 20 out of 22 are there.
What I like, and I was kind of getting at too, it's not just Tanya Carter does it, but
Oh, yeah. We've got staff.
somebody, unlike at all our other schools, somebody is contacting that child or that parent right away to make sure, hey, is everything okay? Is there a reason you're not at school?
We've had parents.
We're not able
ask-
to do that at
Yeah.
Ader.
And we've had parents and the one student that we sent back to Ader, for example, that parent asked us to come over and talk to that daughter, and we got her to school that day. So it works. We have the power and ability to really provide those wraparound services and leave the school building to give kids what they need to succeed. That's our vision.
So one thing you asked about students from other districts, made me think of something. So one interesting, I don't know if it's a problem or what it is, but we do not have a long list of kids from Ader waiting to get into RISE at this point. So there's been a positive effect at Ader in the same way that it's been positive for these students at RISE. It is something that the district can consider in the future. We wouldn't do it without bringing it to the board, but there is a possibility that we could bring students in from other districts. They would have to pay tuition. They would also have to provide their own transportation, and we can be selective about it if they're coming in from another district. So that's not what we planned, but we've got 22, I think, right now at the school, 22, 23.
Right now, 22.
Yeah, and so we know we can take more kids than that. So that's something to consider. Kind of really offset the costs that we have for the program. And again, we wouldn't do that without bringing it to the work first.
I have more questions. Going back to are the students going to be ready? Or are we setting them up for failure or whatever? And you said we have no way of knowing yet because it's our first year. How are we going to know? Because if the benchmark tests aren't how we know, then how are we going to know?
I don't think benchmark tests tell you if a student is ready for high school anyway. And so I think we're gonna know through the success stories of our students that go on to high school. Most of our students who we got, not all, but a lot of our students who we got would have been expelled to homebound, so wouldn't have gotten any services at all. Or we're alternatives to retention, meaning they failed all their classes to get. So it's not that we're intervening and getting them engaged in something that they already are engaged in. So if you look at that data and look at each individual, because each individual kid is different. We have some kids who came to us with A's and B's for sure, but a lot of them did not. And so if you look at that aspect, were they ready for high school before they came to us? Probably not. Are they going to be more likely to be ready after an intervention where they're going to see some realistic learning, see some, oh, this is how math can help me in life. Maybe I'll pay attention more in math, because it's not that the kids aren't capable, they're not engaged. And when they're not engaged, they're not doing the work that needs to be done. So it's hard to say, like, you've been at Rise Academy for a semester, so the academics that they didn't focus on is the reason why you failed or didn't fail, when this is where you were at before you came to Rise Academy. And I think, benchmark testing is one thing, but at the end of the day, you don't get kicked out of school for benchmark testing. You get kicked out of school for your teacher grades, right?
Yeah.
That's how you get dropped from school.
So something I have said repeatedly is, statistically speaking, the kids that are at RISE, if we weren't doing something different. So RISE in itself is an intervention. Right? If statistically speaking, these are kids who, if we didn't do anything, we can predict they're going to drop out of high school. Not just because of brain tool, but kids who fail multiple classes in as early as 6th grade, kids who are suspended from school, kids who don't attend school. Any of those kids with at least 2 of those factors, statistically, they're going to drop out. It's such a strong predictor. So that's why I know when we first started talking about this last year, this was we have to do something different, was my feeling. And so I know I appreciate the board's support, and DeAndre does too. And teachers are, any board member I know some of you have gone over and walked around, but the door is always open for folks to drop by and visit. I enjoy going over and talking to the kids. So sorry, I didn't mean to, I was trying to end the conversation. And my wife just called me, which is weird because she knows I'm at work. So,
and I also like to remind everyone that when I'm glad we have these questions. I'm glad we have these oversight. Please come see us. Please come check in with the kids. whenever you want. But this program is not new, right? This program costs more money now. So we did have Bulldog Academy before, in which we were putting kids in one room with one teacher and then sending them to high school, right? So this is not a new program, and so it's been this way. So all we've done this year is actually give them support when we really didn't have support before. So I wanna keep in mind that although we're talking about this like it's a new program, it's a re-envisioned, lot more expensive version of what we had before.
I'd say value.
What's
It's
the, ratio between your staff, including your part-time staff, to kids?
Ratio,
Yeah, how many teachers?
between, so I've got 3 full-time teachers and 3 TAs. So I have to separate the care staff. So I've got 3 full-time teachers and 3 TAs, and then a secretary. So
That's it?
yeah. I bet. And a social worker. And then we have social work interns, but they're across the building, so they're not just at Rise, but they come in. So that's what 7 staff.
And Tanya Carter does have her office there, but she also works.
Yeah, she's a
out
district.
of the district.
It seems to be working very well. I know a few of the students, and they love it.
I mean, I think we've had our ups and downs for the first year, and I think, as we're hammering things out and ironing things out, we'll be more and more successful as we go on.
I wish that some of the things that the students at Rise learned, they could learn at Ader, because it would be a lot more beneficial for them as an adult.
And like I said, we're piloting something that could be just that. So let's see if we can, get the data up to where we need the data to be. And then, because a lot of our curriculum, our teachers have made from scratch, pulling in their knowledge
About that.
over the 20 years. Yeah, we came in over the summer. We sat over here while there were still cubicles in here, because this is the only place that had Wi-Fi. And everything was around us, and they spent their summer making this curriculum that pulled in, some of the things we already had from our Ready curriculum that's being used at JW Gator, some of their knowledge, and then some of their own mentor tests that they have. So we kind of pulled a lot of things together and tried to make an engaging curriculum.
Just out of curiosity, are the students tested at all?
Yeah, so like.
They're just in their own way?
So we focus on like project-based learning. That's a big thing that we try to do, because that's that real world hands-on experience. So they do project-based learning. I know in math, they do their iReady pathways. So those are tests that kind of, as they learn and keep going, they go up and go to the next skills. So they're tested in math a lot. We give a lot of reports, so we use rubrics and things to get the reports. But what we want to, that's a test, that's a summative assessment. But what we don't want them to do is circle yes, no, because that defeats the purpose of what we're trying to teach them education is.
I would love, am I allowed to speak?
Sure, go right ahead.
I can talk all day about wonderful experiences I've had, but 2 things that popped into my mind. In November, so you're asking about the curriculum and is it rigorous enough and are they academically prepared? I'll say what I said again, if their social emotional needs, if their basic needs, if they're coming to school hungry, no matter how great of a teacher I am, they're not gonna get that information. In November, kids that had really had a hard time started asking us those questions, advocating for themselves. Am I gonna be ready for high school? And so then, that wasn't our goal. I mean, of course, academics are always the goal, but we want them to feel whole as a person so that they can reach those academic things. And now they're already asking us for more, like making sure for themselves. And that to me was the most powerful. And so then I'll just go to this week. I was really nervous doing a current events class Because I'm like, okay, am I gonna be smart enough to answer all their questions when they start asking? And so I just started with like a little worksheet where I found a completely unbiased website called The Donut. And they can go there, they choose an article that they read. One of my students had never heard of March Madness. An 8th grader. And he was like, what is this? And so then it just became authentic conversation where they were talking back and forth after they had read the article about things that are happening in the world. And you know, March Madness might not be the greatest thing in the world for them. It's certainly not academically, but they were holding collaborative conversations. I was like, Mr. Henderson, my room was really noisy today, but you should have heard. And then they read an article about Michael Jordan selling his $8 million shoes. And they were like, well, why would he do that? And where did the money go? And just to hear what they're able to pull out of each other has just been, and like I said, I'm super passionate and I'll answer any questions. And I have a million success stories. Has every day been a success? Absolutely. But it has just, I'm not gonna cry. It's changed my life and I've seen it change their lives. So, thank you.
Any other questions for? Mr. Harrison, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Staff. All right.
Hopefully it's all downhill from here. Not that it was a uphill for that.
Thanks.
Hopefully it ends quickly. There we go.
Okay, we are going to do number 11, action lease amendment extension with First United Methodist Church.
All right, and so in the packet, it explains that we are, fortunately, the board decided, you know, we're going to work on construction of this new facility. And then I said to the church, oh, would it be okay if we stay there longer? So fortunately, they said yes. So I believe this goes through January of 2025, which if everything lines up, we'll have the new facility done and be ready to move out of the church and into the building. There's no increase in the rent. However, we are now leasing, there isn't additional cost because we're adding more space, which is we're leasing part of the basement now. Yep, that's it.
It's gonna cost you the same to rent out more space in that.
No, the rent for the space we have isn't increasing, so the increased cost in the lease is because of the additional space. So we're actually, which we've been paying for, we're just adding it into the lease now. Yeah. All right, is there any questions?
I'll make the motion to approve the item as presented.
Second that.
You were ready.
Oh.
He was ready.
Well, we're gonna let you next time.
Odo Johnson,
Aye.
Katie Johnston.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit,
I abstain.
and John Brotherton.
Aye. Yeah, great.
All right.
Let's go to number 12, approval of professional service agreement with RSP enrollment analysis.
Okay, so we did, we had a lot of meetings in February. And part of that, what the board approved included my recommendation that we engage with a company, a consultant that would assist us with doing enrollment analysis and enrollment projection. I anticipated that I would talk to multiple companies and bring in multiple companies, but after meeting with the company that's currently working with Urbana, I felt comfortable because the cost was substantially less than I had said. So the cost is only $12,500. It likely will be more than that, depending on additional things we might add in as we go. So what this company will do, and on this slide it had, and the handout is there from Hannah. You know, their job is going to be identifying kind of what we want. There is a point where they meet with the board, stakeholder meetings. That is as it says, meet with key city and county officials to gather information. So ultimately what it is they're gonna take all of our enrollment data, and then they look at countywide enrollment data, any data they can get specifically on Rantoul to try to identify anticipated enrollment patterns for at least the next 5 years. The other layer that they're able to do on that is they can overlay that essentially onto a map. So we can see where the growth or the decline in enrollment may be occurring. They'll also be able to tag into that data rate of students, home language of students, those types of things, whether they qualify for free or reduced lunch. And so that it'll give us a much more comprehensive picture to assist the district and the board in planning. Question I got right away was, so is this about the boundaries? Yes and no. The boundaries are only going to come into play if we see something in the data and then the board wants to address it, right? So if we get something back that says, whoa, the 5 years from now, 90% of the kids at Broadmeadow are going to be African American. If we don't change the boundaries, is that something we want? Is that something that we want to address through boundaries? So it's my recommendation that you go ahead and approve the professional services agreement with RSP. The way the motion is written, I am still emailing back and forth with them on some minor points that are being reviewed by our attorney right now. So this is one of those ones where you're approving it, but you're also authorizing me to sign a slightly different version. It's really down to wording some of the small items that were into, not finances. So any questions on it? All right.
I'll make the motion.
I appreciate
Special
this.
service agreement with RSP.
Second.
Moto seconds it.
There you go.
Moto second.
And I do want to
I
clarify,
say one more time, Moto second.
you didn't say it, but I just want to clarify, it's pending final legal review and approval.
Bodo Johnson.
Aye.
Katie Johnston.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
John Brotherton.
Aye. 13, action appoint an at-large advisor for Rantoul City School Foundation.
All right, so this came up recently when Mrs. Ramage retired. The district established the Rantoul City Schools Foundation. The Rantoul, it is overseen by the Community Foundation for East Central Illinois, is the agency that oversees our funds. So we have our first request for funds. And I reached out to the Community Foundation and they said, well, you can't distribute funds unless you have all 3 board members, or your, whatever they're called, they're not called advisors. You have to have your 3 advisors in place and the 3 advisors have to do it. So I didn't realize that the board has to appoint a 3rd advisor.
You, me, and someone else.
So in the bylaws that we have, it's always the board president is 1 advisor, the superintendent's 1 advisor, and then the board appoints a 3rd advisor. So Mr. Brotherton and I talked, and I did reach out to Ms. Ulott to see if she would be interested in serving as the 3rd advisor, and she said yes, that it does require board.
Okay. Board member will help, I think, they'll know things, just make it easier for all of us, I think. Questions about that? I'll make the motion to approve the item as presented. Thank you, Moto. Moto second.
John Brotherton.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
Katie Johnson.
Aye.
Aye.
Modo Johnson, Katie Johnston. Sorry.
They both keep it going.
Yes.
Okay, 14 information items.
Wow, okay. We had one FOIA, it's a recurring one. In your packet is the student discipline report. I also included an updated copy of the family community engagement. This is one of my favorite ones to look at. So I would encourage you to, if you haven't seen it, It is a listing of, unless they forgot it, of all of the different activities that our schools are doing for family and community engagement. It's really cool when you see all the different things that our staff are doing with and for our families. I did include the summary attendance incentive report regarding the TAs. I had emailed that to the board earlier in the month. There's an update from our instructional advisory committee. That is the group of employees, mostly teachers, that meet and work on curriculum questions and concerns. So those they've met 3 times so far this year, and their minutes are in there for your review. Also, an information item. We do have an MOU with the Carter Foundation that's related to the grant with Healing Illinois. I originally sent out the agenda to the board members before it went public, and I had that as an action item. That does not require board action, that one. The second MOU related to the grant is with the U of I. That one will require board action. So there was also one thing that I listed in the agenda that is the summer programming calendar that we have. We did not have it finished in time to put it in the packet, so we'll work on that for the next meeting. But that usually shows mostly our summer school programs that we have going on, so that we know where they are. Any questions on the information items?
Do business? Oh, sorry.
Yes. What's that MOU with the Carter Foundation?
So we have a grant with an agency, I don't know officially who it is. It's funded through the United Way. And well, the money is flowing through this agency to the United Way. The United Way awarded us a grant for $55,000. We did talk about it briefly at the last meeting. So we are partnering with the Carter Foundation and the College of Social Work at the U of I to run the programs. I don't know exactly what it is yet, and I'm not sure we're ready to present, but I know we're doing some town halls, right? And so you and the U of I are facilitating those. There's more. Yeah, do you want to say?
So in continuation with our building kind of equity, we're having that town hall conversations to address social emotional learning, providing that education to the community, also ask for feedback on ways that we can maybe answer future questions, addressing early childhood education, workforce development, and environmental justice and wellness. We do know that there's areas that there are some health concerns, asthma being pretty prevalent, and so making sure that we are providing the resources to the families. In addition, we are taking kiddos to the U of I, as Mr. Henderson mentioned, and then we are having a youth summit where we're empowering our kids 8th through 12th grade to provide their input around their community so that they can help us in the future be future leaders. And that will include actually all of the schools feeding into Rantoul Township High School, but we are managing and coordinating that. So the MOU is for me to kind of continue doing what I'm doing, but also coordinate with the U of I around the surveys that we're going to do to collect input from the students, and then we'll have a parent portion as well that will collect some surveys around.
And that's spelled out in the MOU, and then there is a cost sheet at the end, the last page of the MOU.
The other piece is as we're addressing equity financially or economically in the community, we'll be utilizing some of our existing staff for the after school program to assist us at the town hall so that families don't have that burden, so that we're kind of layering the response to meeting the needs of the community.
Town hall dates are in the family and community engagement activities list. I don't have the times or locations on that list, but we will get those out.
Now, when you said that it's the kids feeding into Rantoul Township High School, are you actually saying like kids from Gifford, St. Malachy to Thomasville? Okay, so they're gonna get the same information.
They'll be part of the discussion, so we'll be working with our juniors and seniors at the high school to help lead some of the conversations, and we're getting that data from their perspective. So we're wanting to make sure that our eighth graders are starting to get prepared for life in high school and interacting in a responsible way. So we are extending that to the feeder schools, so our Aider kids, our Rise kids, St. Malachi, we already start those relationship building pieces.
Oh, okay. I was just kind of wondering, how far out you were going with it.
That's it. Feeding into, still staying central.
I hope we fill up the room, right? So expand our invite list.
New business? New business. We will next month, give you the action item about the gym. And board and superintendent comments. I don't have anything. Board members, do you have anything else? First, let you go last.
I would like for us as a board to utilize this time to talk to each other more. So that we feel comfortable with each other, so that when big discussion items come up, we're being open and authentic with our discussions and how we feel about stuff, because I don't know that we do that with one another. I don't know that we feel completely comfortable with one another talking. And I just would like to say that I wish that we would start to develop those relationships, because I think that's what people, see how crowded the room is, what people come here for is they want to hear us actually discuss things when we need to and be open and honest about it. So I hope that we, as a board, can move in that direction. Thanks.
Okay, it's your turn.
I have a long list. I apologize in advance, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So one is a personal thank you to the board, and I know it's also my central office staff. I appreciate the kind gesture with the situation going on with my family that happened around spring break. I do appreciate that. So to stop rumors, there was a death in my family, a close family member. I want to share too, we had a group of 4 of our staff do a visit to East Moline School District for a day. That is one of the schools that every year comes up in our annual report as comparable school district that outperforms us. And so we sent a team up. It was Allison Didier, Patricia Valente, and then Michelle Fry and Lindsay Rubach, who do professional development for us. And we spent the day with the team. They did. I got sick. They spent the day up there visiting multiple school sites, meeting with their district leadership team and teachers. And I think we got a lot of good information. It's something we may do again with some other leaders from our district. So I think that was a high value thing for us to do. I do want to update the board and the public on pre-K construction, because we haven't talked about it in a while. So I had someone say, are we still doing it? Yes. Right now, what is happening is the architect is finalizing detailed plans. So the architect has to do the full plan of the project in order to put it out to bid. And so that's the process we're in. I'm really hoping that at our April meeting, I can tell you that the bid package is out, but I don't know for sure. I do expect that at the April meeting, the bond issue will be on previously the board approved moving forward with the bonds, but we have to take the step of actually selling the bonds. And that's has to happen in a board meeting. So I think it'll probably be April. May would be the latest. It's not in our interest to sell the bonds until we need the money to spend, because otherwise we're paying interest on the money. So you want to sell it as close to the time you start the project. The bilingual, I want to update where we are with our families. after the decisions that were made last month is we have sent a letter to all of the bilingual families that are affected by the changes. They were individualized, I shouldn't say individualized, they were in groups depending on the family's situation. So if you have only, one first grader in the district, you got this letter. Okay. If you have a kid in second, third, and fifth grade, you got this letter. So we are getting that. I know the parents have received them because we've started getting phone calls, which is what we want to happen. There is a parent meeting that Ms. Valente is going to be hosting for bilingual parents, and some of the staff will be joining her, happening on Sunday. Again, it's about answering questions to the best we can that parents have. A positive thing I want to share, I've shared this with the board by email, but busing is, as we dig into it more, it seems very doable, I guess is what I would say for what we were talking about with busing for the bilingual program. It should be, it's working out much better than I thought it would land in the end. The number of families that will have kids in 2 buildings is actually much smaller. I wish I'd had that information in front of me when we were talking about it, because it was not a huge number of students and families that will have kids in 2 schools. So that is all in the works. I just want to make sure everybody knows that. CO and RISE, I appreciate Mr. Henderson pointing out how long it's taken for us to get the construction done at this building. We are almost done, as hopefully you can see. They're finishing some things. Do you have a light switch in your classroom yet, Tanya?
No.
Still no light switch? All right, well, I thought that was done this week, but the flooring is in, walls are painted. The RISE looks really, really nice right now. The only thing they're waiting on are the light switches. So these lights go in, but they don't operate on switches yet until they put the sensors in, and we might have, yours have the sensors.
I have this,
We don't have a switch yet, so.
right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
We don't
So
have
if I
sensors.
leave before other people, I turn off the lights and then Alexa starts screaming.
So, but it is coming along. One update is the kitchen that Mr. Henderson referenced. We really did not move forward with it in the initial round of construction because of cost. We have been paring that down considerably from, I think, Mr. Henderson's original vision. But where we are is there's plumbing and ventilation work that's going to have to be done if we move forward with it. So the architect is working on a bid package for that, and that would really, there'll be a discussion of the board is how you want to move forward with that. So last 2 things, board specific. We are still trying to, this goes with kind of what you were talking about, Ms. Pettit, board member Pettit, is the communication piece. Is we are trying to schedule that for the goal setting session with IASB. So when Hannah calls you for dates, it's because we're trying to coordinate with them. Okay. One suggestion, May 16th was on there, right? As a date, and that is a regular board meeting for us. So I'm wondering if we could just have a really, really long board meeting that night. If we can do the business part right away, and like we don't have any presentations, we just do the things we have to vote on, and then we go into closed session for the goal setting. So we'll reach out about that. The last one is statements of economic interest. Do we have them all? Hannah, I'm really gonna ask.
She was waiting for
I'm
mine.
sorry.
Do you have all the statements of economic interest from the board members? Or we,
From everybody that's here, I'm
Okay.
missing 2,
Then
but
we don't need to
there are
talk
2
about it.
people that aren't here.
and we're missing mine. So that's it. I did mine. I did it for the wrong year. I didn't know you could do it.
Scott, do you remember to mention the grant that Jenny asked you about?
That was the foreign language one.
Yeah.
I'm done. Promise. Sure.
I'll make the motion to adjourn. Can I get a second?
Nice.
Okay. Let us take it away. We need to say.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, Thank you all for coming.